Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy Zagami.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Today the subject, it's quite an interesting one, JFK's assassination and the Manchurian candidate, of course, based also on my latest book, Volume 11. This is already a bestseller in experimental medical psychology and also in hypnosis. Okay, Volume 11, guys, is also a way to support our show. You can also purchase, if you want, our family cooking book by Christy. The Zagami Family Cookbook is also a great book that you should consider buying because it has only fantastic recipes, and you know, Leo Zagami likes it. Like a king. Okay, Christy, who are the sponsors of today's show?
Okay, so we have Malgarazana Minta and David Kammerer and Bruce Kodish and David Estes. Thank you guys very much. And thank you to everyone who bought the book.
Yes, because you are making it, transforming it into a bestseller.
Yeah, it's a bestseller because of you guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, you should continue supporting us because from Labor Day onwards, we have started for a couple of weeks only a sale. Christy, how much are we selling this book now for?
$15.99. We took $2 off to try to.
$15.99. So that's really an affordable price. We know that, of course, people are in difficulty, and so we wanted to make this book really affordable because it's an important book, as you will understand also from today's subject. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show, then, and if you want to continue supporting us, you can do it through GoFundMe and Cash App. You can find the handle at leozagami.com together with also the links to all my latest books. I'm going to put the GoFundMe here on the screen. So if anybody's interested in supporting us, and then you can decide or not if you want to stay anonymous, if you want to be public about your donation. We respect, all wishes. So here we are, and let me put it on the screen. We are broadcasting at the moment on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, and on Rumble. Remember that. This is very important. We have a variety of platforms, but only for the first half of the show. The second half of the show is exclusively on X and Rumble because we like to be a little bit more open. We don't like to be afraid of having our videos blocked or removed. We had 17 channels removed during the infamous pandemic, whatever scandemic. So now we are taking no chances, and that's why here we are for the first part of the show on Facebook and YouTube. But we know they're quite limited in what you can say. But then later on, we have the 100% no censorship policy in the second part of the show. Today, by the way, we will have a different interlude between the first and the second part of the show by Speedy Champ. But just for today, we have just a novelty, just Okay, so at this point, guys, we should start with this new video that has surfaced suddenly, and it's quite interesting, the fact that it coincides actually with my new publication, because we're talking about a brand new video about JFK's assassination that the Associated Press has picked up from an amateur source, so it was never shown before. Here we go.
The film, you can see the Secret Service car, and again, people holding their signs, but Mr. Carpenter missed filming the president just by 5-10 seconds. And because he didn't get the president on camera, he wants to go up on Stemmons Freeway because he knows they're going to the Trade Mart. In just seconds, the president's car is going to go screaming by at 80 miles an hour. This film is historically important visually, but as an artifact, it's extremely collectible. It is the first original reel of film you could really buy from November 22nd, 1963, since the Zapruder film. You have this moment on this film, and I couldn't wait to see it, where Limo 1 is speeding 80 miles an hour down the Stemmons Freeway, heading to the hospital, and Agent Clint Hill is still on the car, holding on, and as the car passes by, you can clearly see Mrs. Kennedy in the back seat and Clint heroically still holding her down, and they're on their way to attempt to save the president's life.
There were so many cameras in Dealey Plaza, but also all along the route, beginning at Love Field, that capture these unique personal perspectives from these very limited angles. And you know, this amateur color photography or black and white photography, it connects us to the story in a very special way. As we lose the memory of the assassination, what we're left with is that visual memory.
What I'm hopeful is other families in Dallas will go running up and go through their 8mm films and see what else is there. Because these films need to be curated and need to be digitized. They need to be saved.
Wow. What do you think about that discovery, Christy? Today we're going to be discussing, though, who was behind this assassination, because, of course, we never really accepted the lone gunman theory. But even if we accept the lone gun, you know, like in the case of Thomas Crooks, we need to understand that that doesn't mean he was alone. Who inspired him? Who actually programmed him? Because, like I explained in my book, Lee Harvey Oswald had been programmed since his stay in Japan as a Marine. He had volunteered for the MK Ultra project. Who do you think gave him $1,000 to fly at the end of the 1950s to Russia? And on top of that, the embassy then, once he wants to come back to the United States with his wife, who, by the way, I think was related to a colonel, a military colonel in the Soviet Union, is let back into the United States and given also something like $3,000 or $4,000 so he can rebuild his life. I mean, it sounds a little bit weird. Now, in my book, I also explain the involvement of this gentleman here, the Howard Hunt. What a guy. I mean, those sunglasses. Now, this guy was apparently in charge of operations in that day in Las Vegas. I mean, but also he became the author in 1967 of a book that nobody seems to be able to find. We Were Control. And this book is cited by me, of course, in volume 11 of my Confessions, because we have to understand the guy is a CIA operative. He actually goes in front of the commission testifying on the Watergate scandal. So he's also involved in the Watergate scandal, which plays also a very important role in the elimination of all the documents of the various sub-projects, including the infamous sub-project 68 that went on in Canada with Dr. Cameron, which was one of the most infamous. But yes, very conveniently, the actual Watergate scandal gave the possibility for them to eliminate all this evidence. But let's remember, and I mean, I here, right at the start of the book, try to explain one important detail that, I mean, it's also explained here in the description. I mean, MK Ultra means manufacturing killers utilizing lethal tradecraft. And this is requiring assassination. I mean, requiring assassination. It wasn't just a project for hypnotizing people or addressing them in a certain ideology. This was about all those fears America had in the 1950s, especially when the soldiers started coming back from the war in Korea, the POWs. And this will eventually give birth to a movie that came out in 1962, The Manchurian Candidate. A movie that sees two protagonists And this is, I mean, The Manchurian Candidate for me is a very important movie that we should always reference. But both of them, I mean, even the 2004 version with Denzel Washington has some interesting elements. But of course, the novel that came out earlier at the end of the 1950s, I think 1959, is even more detailed about this, they get basically these POWs, they are brought in Manchuria. And in Manchuria, this is the scene that we're gonna now show from the movie. And remember also the two actors, the name of the two actors. One is Frank Sinatra, a close friend of JFK. He actually asked JFK the permission if he could do this movie. And the other actor, Lawrence Harvey, like Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, this is a very weird synchronicity, to say the least, but it's even more weird to see the opening scene of this movie. So here we go with the opening scene. Open your eyes, open your ears. This might be a great way to understand also how many other Manchurian candidates have been prepared since then. And of course, if the first Manchurian Candidate of 1962 is based mainly on these hypnotic techniques, we're going to see the second one in 2004 is even more explicit in talking about the possibility of implants, which our aunt has in that book, which we just mentioned, talks about already in 1967. People will say, yeah, how can they have a computer inside their head in the 1960s, or a brain-computer interface, which is a recent invention? No. You just needed to affect with a specific method or something, a specific part of your brain, and then magnetically influence. That was something that was already possible in the 1960s. But let's see the opening scene of The Manchurian Candidate, and welcome to the Leo Zagami Show.
The war in Korea was over. Captain, now Major Bennett Marco, had been reassigned to Army intelligence in Washington. It was, by and large, a pleasant assignment, except for one thing. Night after night, the Major was plagued by the same reoccurring nightmare.
Stop.
Another modern discovery, which we owe to the hydrangea, concerns the influence of air drainage upon plant climate. Many years ago, when I was traveling...
Now, this is a very important part of the movie, because this is when they are supposed to be... He remembers now in this dream, him and the other soldiers, including the Manchurian Candidate himself, of course, which we see Lawrence Harvey there on your left, these ladies, which are actually Westerners, in Manchuria with a scientist, a Chinese scientist. You will see also Stalin's image, Mao Zedong's image, and what you're about to witness is very, very important.
The country, I noticed magnificent hydrangeas on the hills, where the air drainage was perfect, and very poor specimens, or perhaps none at all, in the valleys. Formerly, we used to consider sheltered valleys more favorable to plants than hilltops. But the avoidance of late spring and early autumn frost enjoyed by sites with good air drainage, where the cold air can drain safely away to lower levels, gives the hills a decided advantage. Thus it was...
Let's remember, it will not be unfamiliar to see Western ladies in a foreign contest. It was a little bit different, the scenario back then. But we will see soon those Pavlovian scientists, those Soviet and Chinese elements that capture this US Army platoon, and then, of course, brainwashes them. And in particular, we have Sergeant Raymond Shaw, and then we have Captain Bennett Marco, which is Frank Sinatra. But it's actually Captain Bennett, Raymond Shaw, that would be the Manchurian candidate, the ultimate Manchurian candidate of this movie.
Hydrangeas gave the first pointer in another modern discovery of horticultural importance. From this, it might appear that the hydrangea is a fairly simple plant, but there are more complications. The cultivation of hydrangeas was evolved from a number of varieties originally found in Japan, not all of which, of course, have the same characteristics. Two of them do not share the quality of producing blue flowers in mineral-rich soils.
Now, from this point onwards, guys, focus on the books that are cited, because this is a very in-depth version of the novel, much more in-depth and much more correct and closer to the original novel of 1959, because they are citing books that are really important in the history of mind control.
Allow me to introduce our American visitors. I must ask you to forgive their somewhat lackadaisical manners, but I have conditioned them, or brainwashed them, which I understand is the new American word, to believe that they are waiting out a storm in the lobby of a small hotel in New Jersey, where a meeting of the Ladies' Garden Club is in progress.
You will notice that I have told them they may smoke. I've allowed my people to have a little fun in the selection of bizarre tobacco.
In their head, they're leaving the meeting like they are in this ladies' garden club. In reality, they are in front of a very skilled mind control expert who is using those techniques that initially that had been initiated by Ivan Pavlov, like I described in volume 11. Here we go.
Substitutes. Are you enjoying your cigarette, Ed?
Yes, ma'am. Yak dung. Oh, tastes good. Like a cigarette should. Now then, comrade.
May I present the famous Raymond Shaw?
Young man, you've flown 8,000 miles to this dreary spot in Manchuria to see. Raymond, pull your chair over here by me, please. I am sure you've all heard the old wives' tale that no hypnotized subject may be forced to do that which is repellent to his moral nature, whatever that may be. Nonsense, of course. Oh, you note-takers might set down a reminder to consult Brenman's paper, Experiments in the Hypnotic Production of Antisocial and Self-Injurious Behavior, or Wells' 1941 paper, which was titled, I believe, Experiments in the Hypnotic Production of Crime.
Or, of course, Andrew Salter's remarkable book, Conditioned Reflex Therapy, to name only three. Or, if it offends you, only...
The conditioning. You see, conditioning is when, for example, somebody yawns in the room, and then you, of course, are prone to do the same.
Yeah.
That is conditioning. That's why Frank Sinatra is yawning.
The West is working to manufacture more crime and better criminals.
Against the modern shortages, I suggest Krasnogorski's Primary Violence Motivation, or Surav's The Unilateral Suggestion to Self-Destruction.
My dear Jan, as you grow older, you grow more long-winded. And we get to the point, has the man ever killed anyone? Or has enough?
I apologize, my dear Dmitri. I keep forgetting that you're a young country and your attention span is limited. Tell me, Raymond, have you ever killed anyone?
No, ma'am.
Not even in combat?
In combat? Yes, ma'am, I think so.
Of course you have, Raymond. Raymond has been a crack shot since childhood.
Marvelous outlet for his aggressions. May I have the bayonet, please?
Not with the knife, with the hands.
With the hands?
Here, have him use this.
Ah, da. Raymond, whom do you dislike the least in your group here today?
The least?
That's right.
Well, I guess Captain Markham, ma'am.
Notice how he is always drawn to authority. That won't do, Raymond. We need the captain to get you your medal. Whom else?
Well, I guess Ed Mavoli, ma'am.
Ah, that's better. Now then, Raymond, take this scarf and strangle Ed Mavoli to death.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon.
Hey, Sarge, cut it up. What? Quiet, Ed, please. Now you just sit there quietly and cooperate.
Yes, ma'am.
That is basically what hypnotism is. It projects you somewhere else. In this case, it's about producing a sleeper agent, about producing somebody who will be activated later on. We are, of course, witnessing all this in a movie from 1962 that was then take out of commerce and of all the cinemas for 20 years. Once JFK was killed, this movie had to be out of circulation because it was way too revealing. It was way too revealing. The way they created this Manchurian candidate was, of course, with sleep deprivation, with all kinds of torture, hypnosis, and then in the end, the guy is shaped in that way. No? But in the 2004 version with Denzel Washington, we have an even more clear the description of maybe the implants, the use of some kind of implants is mentioned. And that might be also closer to the truth in a way, though other elements of the 2004 version are more distant from the novel and probably from the truth. Now, in the first version, the subject that needs to be killed is a Republican politician. In the 2004 version, it becomes democratic. The people conspiring against the Republican politician that is actually based on McCarthy. McCarthy is famous because of McCarthyism. He was the guy who started this witch hunt against communists. So, of course, they wanted him dead. Now, the closing scene of the movie is very interesting. We will also witness other important scenes. But in the meantime, let me show you something else. Let me show you how we are in front of a constant psyop. Because we are mind control and then we are psyop daily. Psychological operations take place daily in our lives, unfortunately. Like with Kamala Harris. This clown is basically going around the United States with a fake paid audience, which is bust, from one place.
We knew it.
Well, but that is a psyop on American people. That is a psychological operation.
You have to pay people to listen to her.
Absolutely. It's quite shocking. This clown is trying, with the support, of course, of the media, of the corrupt social networks, of those people who have, in a way, already interfered enough in our lives. They want to bring her well, she's already in the White House. They want to simply make her the president because they hate the fact that Donald J. Trump is considered a threat by the military-industrial complex, is not in line with their ideology, which wants to transform basically the United States in the new Soviet Union. That is the thing here. You see, we are watching the Manchurian Candidate, and the threat at the time was communism. The threat at the time was communism, and it was a wide perceived threat. At the time, maybe they even exaggerated because they would go after anybody who read even the Red Book of Mao Zedong or anything else. But in a way, they protected the American dream. Now we are at the exact opposite. Here we have Kamala Harris with their Soviet-style policies that will destroy capitalism, destroy the American dream, and of course, they tried to kill Donald J. Trump. They wanted him dead. That's why they programmed Thomas Crooks. But Thomas Crooks, on the contrary of Lee Harvey Oswald, was probably not a volunteer in MK Ultra, because MK Ultra formally doesn't exist since 1973. He was probably a volunteer in something else. So when he joined that whole thing that eventually will show him present in a Black Rock spot, well, that already probably brought him on the radar of this cognitive warfare, which already is inflicted on most young people today in America, who are psyoped and also victims of cognitive warfare. But when it comes down to Thomas Crooks, definitely in the end, this guy must have had also the support of something else externally that pushed them into that direction. We know that he had encrypted apps. We know that on the 23rd of July, his body was cremated. And so at the beginning of August, when a U.S. Republican representative arrived in Butler, he couldn't see his body. Why did they cremate his body? Maybe he had implants in his body. Maybe he had substances in his body that they had to eliminate. So at that point, they could eliminate any evidence. But let's go back to Kamala Harris and her buses.
I love Gen Z. I just love Gen Z. Right? We are running as the underdog. We know what they're capable of on the other side. We like hard work. Hard work is good work. You believe in the community and you're part of the glue of the fabric that holds communities together. We know how to count. We know how to count. We trust women. We trust women. So let us understand, which we do, our purpose at this very moment. Let us remember the broad shoulders upon which we stand and the traditions of this very fight that have led to what we have been able to accomplish. And let us understand then
Well, behind me, hundreds of invited Harris supporters are leaving and boarding shuttle buses.
And there they fucking are.
How many buses? I mean, how many buses? Never-ending buses. Guys, in 10 minutes, we're gonna move the whole thing on X and Rumble, as YouTube is not really the place to be at the moment, but we would like to invite all our friends on Facebook and on YouTube to subscribe to our X, my blue check mark profile on X, Leo Lion Zagami, as well as my official Rumble channel. Guys, there is no way we can continue, especially in this period that precedes the election, being on Facebook and YouTube, which are openly supporting these criminals.
Everybody is.
It's not even worth, I mean, the trouble. We are, of course, broadcasting live from Palm Springs, California, me and my wife. We want to thank all those people who have made this book already a bestseller this week on Amazon in medical, experimental psychology, and hypnosis, and other categories. Volume 11 is the past, present, and future of mind control, from Sun Tzu to MK Ultra and beyond.
I wonder if anybody's read the whole thing in the chat.
Well,
has anybody read the whole book?
I hope they will.
It's really good.
It's definitely a very important book. Now, in Italy, there is a meeting every year of, let's say, an Illuminati think tank, which takes place in Chernobyl. Zelensky has arrived there and has given his speech. This was the arrival of Zelensky. And later I will play a clip from what Zelensky said earlier today in Italy, and it's pretty shocking.
Non davanti, non davanti. Presidente? Presidente, Presidente. One picture in the stairs, please. One photo. One photo, please, right there. Please, thank you.
Now, this is very important because Viktor Orban, on behalf of Donald J. Trump, is also there in Chernobyl. And apparently, his wish was to talk with Zelensky because, of course, the situation at the moment with the Ukrainians in Kursk, the Russians advancing in Donbass, in Donetsk, they actually took control of another city. So, and there is, of course, a lot of tension. So here, let's listen to what Orban said just before the arrival of Zelensky at this important meeting that takes place in Chernobyl, Italy. Okay, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna take off here so you can see. Okay, no, actually, no, I don't need it. Okay, let me show you Orban.
And Putin is possible now. Of course, it's necessary, you know. There's a big literature of peace, how to create peace, you know. All libraries of European governments and capitals have hundreds of books about peace management, how to create peace. And this literature and my personal experience is that the first question is communication. If there is no communication, the war is getting worse and worse. And if you don't initiate communication in a proper time, then the escalation is growing and it will be even more difficult later on. That's the first. Second, ceasefire. There is a misunderstanding widely in the Western public opinion that we first should put together a peace plan and then to start to negotiate and then to have a ceasefire. It's not true. If you look at how the peace management happened in the last 30 years globally, ceasefire was always the first, peace agreement was always the second. Regularly, 3 ceasefire belongs to 1 peace agreement. So that's the reason why my point is first communication, second ceasefire, then start to negotiate on a peace arrangement.
Well, let's hope they can arrange something, but until we have these warmongers in the White House, it's not going to be possible. Today, as you all know, Dick Cheney has given his support to Kamala Harris. I mean, it's obvious, you know. I've been explaining the neocon scam, PNAC, and everything that is connected to 9/11, and we are getting close to the 9/11 anniversary. And if you want to really understand who is behind 9/11, read this book. You know, it's in volume 10, very important. Really. But I also dedicated a chapter to 9/11 in this other book because it's also a massive psychological operation, the biggest psychological operation that was only surpassed recently by the pandemic. So it's very important to understand that Dick Cheney is not a Republican. He's simply a military-industrial complex scumbag, and that's why his endorsement of Kamala Harris, we can view that as a favor, because everybody in the right sense of mind, they know how this guy has ruined the life of many families in the United States that unfortunately are still crying for the loss of their loved ones in Iraq, in Afghanistan. And Dick Cheney is, of course, the guy responsible for it. Him and his daughter are really terrible human beings, despicable human beings. Let's move forward, because I wanted to also show you at this point, we are discussing Zelensky still, because Zelensky at the moment is still part of NATO's cognitive warfare, trying to convince us that we are in the right, what we are doing is the right thing, supporting this Ukrainian clown and comedy guy is the right thing. Let's see what he said in Chernobyl, because what he said is really weird. I mean, it's almost like he's asking us to attack Moscow, but then he says, I'm joking, but then I'm very serious. Check it out.
Yeah, sure.
That, for example, Italia or somebody else, doesn't matter, afraid that we will attack Kremlin. It's a pity we can't. Because those long-distance weapons, what you had or some partners, it's about 200 kilometers. So it's less than those distance. What about Tajani spoke? So, but your production have to try to do their best. But you have to understand, it's a joke, yes, but it's very serious, really serious. What we want, how to use this long-distance weapon, just on military airfields, just to use this weapon, which can work with 100 and 300 kilometers. That's all.
Do you believe this clown? I mean, he's asking you the permission to basically activate himself so he can attack the Kremlin, he can attack Moscow. He says, no, we're going to only attack the military bases. Guys, the moment he attacks a Russian command center, as we had in 2024, that means automatically Putin will blow the whole of Ukraine with a nuclear weapon like Sarmat or the likes. I mean, attacking the military base inside Russia of a Russian contingent, probably with the nuclear arsenals. I mean, it's a suicide mission at that point. And it will create some really big problems. And of course, the conflict will escalate. So I think that this clown should instead listen to Orban. And maybe once we have Trump back in the White House, we can seriously talk about peace. We have been the first people here at the Leo Zagami show to describe in detail how this whole plan was born, with Orban going to Mar-a-Lago, then Orban going around, going to visit, of course, Putin, but visiting also Zelensky, China. I mean, the guy's been very active as a peacemaker. If there was somebody who really deserves a Nobel Peace Prize at the moment, it's definitely Viktor Orban, but he will probably never get it, because you see, it's all it's all based on some sick and twisted vision of a reality in which maybe a warmonger like Obama is said to deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, while a real peacemaker is not made to deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. But in any case, guys, welcome to the Leo Zagami show. We are about to end the first part of the show, and we're gonna be doing it today with we usually have music break, you know, between one part of the show and the other. This time is not going to be Vincenzo Viceversa and his Medieval, which of course we will listen again next week, and the visuals of our friend Albert, but we have Speedy Champ. Speedy Champ can be found at Speedy Champ 01 on YouTube. He's a friend of ours, of the show, who wanted, of course, to present himself to the American audiences with a track which has a weird title, but I'm sure you will appreciate. It's definitely a weird title, though. I mean,
what is the title?
Western Dark Beer.
Oh, okay.
So this is the track. And we will see you after this track for the second part of the show on Rumble, on X only. No Facebook, no YouTube for the second part of the show, which will be particularly revealing. Remember, guys, this week was a terrible week for America. We had another shooting in a school. Now, regarding mass shootings and the rise of antidepressants, you should definitely read this book. And it's really sad to see the rise of the police state also in our schools. The fact that today being a child in the American police state means you're going into the school to be indoctrinated, brainwashed, and on top of that, you are also going to be terrorized by constant drills about possible shootings, parents being fined and threatened with jail time for their kids' bad behavior. It's really insane what is happening. Your children are not yours any longer, because it's becoming more and more like the Soviet Union. That is the Soviet communist mentality. Remember that? And it's like, you're sending your school your child at school is no longer your child. So you should homeschool your child if possible, because that is a way of preserving him from this mess, don't you think, Christy? It's really sad to see also that instead of educating them, they are indoctrinating them, they are intimidating them, they are showing them intolerance. They are always with this racial bias. It's really incredible how they're criminalizing also certain aspects of childhood, which are typical of childhood. Children need to be a little bit.
Of course, yeah.
So it's.
I can't imagine being a kid nowadays. It must be horrible.
Absolutely. So we see you in a few minutes for the second part of the show on X and Rumble. And also one thing to close, I mean, we discussed the shooting of this week. There is definitely two ways of approaching the fact that in this case, Cole Gray and his father, Colin Gray, have appeared in court to face charges in this Georgia school shooting because the father gave, passed on the gun, the same gun that was used also by Thomas Crooks to attempt to assassinate Trump. The same gun, and it was passed on from the father also. So why is Thomas Crooks' father not having any problems here?
Because someone's trying to kill
Donald J. Trump, and because he's, of course, a member of the Democratic Party with his wife, and they're both medical health professionals, mental health, what mental health professionals? I mean, if the son did that, you should just give up and do another job, really. So, because it means that you are an incompetent. See you in part 2 of this show in a few minutes, only on Rumble and X. Please pass on to Rumble and X so you can follow the excellent part 2 of the show, which I prepared for you, and enjoy in the meantime Western Dark Beer by BITCHUTE.